Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Women in Computing event. Our chairperson, Professor Chiranjeev, would have loved to be here to give opening remarks and welcome everybody, but unfortunately he could not make it today due to some unforeseen personal commitments. So the Women in Computing lecture series is part of our CSA Golden Jubilee celebrations. The event aims to celebrate the work done by women computer scientists and initiate conversations about diversity to create an ecosystem to encourage and support academic and professional opportunities for women in computing. I'm very happy to introduce our first speaker of the day, Vidya. Vidya is the founder of Vision Empower, a not-for-profit enterprise which focuses on bringing education in science and mathematics to students with visual impairment, which are mostly out of reach for many children. Her work was recently featured on Forbes India and Deccan Herald Changemakers 20 in 20. Vidya was a research fellow at Microsoft Research India for 2 years. She received the Best Paper Award for a paper submitted at the CSCW conference and honorable mention for a paper submitted at the CHI conference, both of which are published by ACM. As a student of the Masters in Digital Society program at IIIT Bangalore, Vidya graduated as a gold medalist from her batch in 2017. She has received numerous awards and many scholarships for her work and academic excellence. She has given a TEDx talk and regularly gives motivational talks in many institutes and corporates. Vidya has also been an RJ for a radio show and hosted 35 episodes on science and technology, which benefited thousands of visually impaired listeners. She holds the distinction of being the first blind student to undertake math at higher secondary school in Karnataka, following it up by being the first one to pursue computer science as a major in undergraduate studies at her university. Vidya, we are very happy to have you here. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. So, firstly, my heartfelt gratitude to IISc for giving me this opportunity to share my journey and my work with all of you today. I decided on speaking about my work instead of focusing on a technical topic because I'm a social entrepreneur trying to address a specific problem to make STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math education accessible to children who are visually impaired. So I thought this is a wonderful opportunity to be talking at IISc because I feel that social issues can be better addressed by leveraging expertise, by leveraging state of the art technologies and the body of knowledge which esteemed institutions such as IISc already has. And I feel that social issues definitely require knowledge about ground realities. At the same time, it requires capabilities that all of you already have. And after I share my journey and my work, I'd be really happy to see if there is interest in potential collaborations. And this is because the ultimate goal for us for Vision Empower is to make our solutions accessible and inclusive and make it available for any child across the world. So if someone requires the solution, say in Bangladesh, we should be able to provide, or someone else might require in some other country. So we need to scale up and provide, for which we need capabilities like esteemed institutions that already has. And so before I begin about the work, I wanted to share some statistics. 1/3 of the world's visually impaired population live in India, and this is not a small number. So, by visually impaired, I mean people who are completely blind and people who have varying degree of vision loss. 90% of the world's blind population live in developing countries. And most of the cases, about 75% of the cases, are avoidable. So definitely we need assistive technologies for Indian population because we know there are so many visually impaired people and 1/3 of them live in India. And definitely we need assistive technologies which can also diagnose blindness at the right time because most of the cases are already preventable. And the reality for most blind people in India is most of the blind students are not educated, and most of them cannot afford assistive technologies, and there is no awareness about the resources that are needed for a visually impaired child when he or she is born. Especially this is the case in villages, and I was born in one of such villages where there was no resources available for a blind student or a blind child, and there was no awareness about what is to be done with a blind person, because that was the first time a blind person was born in that village. So naturally, for me and for many others, the first person who will give a sense of hope and a sense of direction will be ophthalmologist. That's what happened with me. The doctor who operated my left eye finally said that you don't have to give up all the hope. He said my parents that they don't have to give up all the hope and they have to educate me. So it is very necessary that we sensitize ophthalmologists, because for many of my friends as well, this was the case. And I was enrolled in a blind school in grade 2 formally, and it was a very nice school. But in most of the blind schools, the situation for studying math and science is not that great, because math and science are not given much importance. This is because children eventually drop out from studying math and science as early as grade 5 or grade 7. And this is not only in Karnataka but throughout the world. In my case, my school had classes only till 7th grade. And when I was studying in 6th grade itself, I realized that I really enjoyed studying math and science, and no matter what, I should continue with them just for the love of these subjects. But once I finished my schooling till 7th, I had to shift to a regular school. And in the regular school, I was introduced to math and science then. So here, the first month was full of confusion, because everything was written on blackboard and I couldn't follow anything. Especially in case of math and science, I just could hear the teacher saying, look at this diagram, or this divided by this is equal to 20. So I didn't have a clue about what is going on, and I didn't know how to approach the situation. Then I had to put in a lot of effort to get all the materials audio recorded. Fortunately, I found a lot of volunteers, and many of my teachers also um, would audio record everything. And I finished my 10th grade with math and science. It was really not an easy task, but that was still the beginning, because challenges just went on increasing. In for my 11th and 12th grade, again there was the same issue for studying visual subjects. This time, my class was huge. There were so many students. There was no way that anyone would be able to audio record everything, because the content was so much. And at that time, I was not aware of technologies that were there to study math and science for a blind person. For my friends who could see, they would just use pen and a paper to write down their notes, and they would come home and it was very natural. But for me, every simple thing would be a problem studying math and science. So all of these issues continued even in my undergraduation when I was doing my bachelor's in computer applications. So to summarize, there are a few problems that are there. Why? And because of this, children give up math and science very early on, children who are visually impaired. So first is lack of content itself. So for, I think most of you already know, blind people use braille to read and write. Braille is a script by which you can touch and feel. That's how we write and read. So a lot of content was already available in braille, but this was not the case for math and science, because we know the subject is very visual. and all the diagrams especially were skipped in the textbooks, and without diagram you really can't study math and science, right? Like for me, when I was studying, a digestive system was just a theoretical concept. Unless you touch and feel all the parts that will be labeled, you really can't get a holistic view on what they're talking about. So definitely there should be a way to make all of the visual content accessible, but that was not there. Secondly, the teachers are not there who can teach children with visual impairments, because there are very few takers, and naturally teachers are not trained. The population of visually impaired people is also too much in India, and that there are no proper technologies that are there in India. Most of the technologies are designed and developed not keeping in mind the global south. They're developed for people from developed nations, which here we cannot afford. And even though there are some technologies, the policies are not in place. So for me, what happened was, there was computer which was available. I could take down at least notes on my computer and work out a little bit of math using Excel. But policies were not in place. I couldn't take them to the exam. And finally, there is a myth that blind students cannot study, both um, in the society as well as in the blind community itself, because they're made to believe that you cannot study math and science, and everyone believes it, and it's going on for ages now. In fact, Helen Keller, when she was there, she said she found it really difficult to study algebra and geometry, and rest of the things she could manage. And I think this was in 18, I don't remember exactly, somewhere in 1880s, but still the situation is still the same. So then I enrolled for my post graduation at IIIT Bangalore, and after that I completed my my internship at Microsoft Research, and all of the projects that I did were mostly on accessibility and assistive technology, because that was my area of interest. And after which I decided that I will start an organization called Vision Empower, and I approached Professor Amit Prakash at IIIT Bangalore, who was also my professor at that time. And he, along with Supriya, um, they also joined me in this initiative, and we together started this organization, which is a not-for-profit organization incubated at IIIT Bangalore, and it's called Vision Empire. We started it in 2017 August. So here we already knew that we want to focus on STEM education for visually impaired people. This was because, as I told you, there were so many challenges when I was studying, and not only that, there was another main reason which I'm going to explain now. Uh, India has one of the highest number of STEM graduates, and we all know that STEM careers are flourishing. So if you go to a school, regular school, where there are children who can see and ask, say a fourth grade class, on what do you want to become when you grow up, at least 50% I'm sure will choose some or the other career from STEM fields, either a doctor or engineer or something like that. But blind students are missing out on all of these careers, especially such rewarding careers and such rewarding opportunities. And I definitely knew that if given opportunity, surely we can study, because for me it was really difficult trial and error, but I really enjoyed math and science. Still there was some joy for those subjects. Math was still my favorite, no matter what, how difficult it got. And blind people are left out from all these rewarding careers. And this is not the question of one or two people, there's a question of millions of people from generations. So they are left out from these careers again. Why? Because they haven't studied these subjects. Again, there are so many challenges which I mentioned why they have not studied these subjects. And the technologies that are designed right now are not, most of the technologies are not accessible for a blind person. For example, if I want to order some food, then the apps that are there are not accessible. That is because blind people are not involved in the design process. Again, it all boils down to the education part, because people are not involved in this design process because they have no idea how to be involved. And again, it boils down to the fact that because blind people have not studied these subjects. So we decided that we will be addressing our we'll be addressing this problem, and we will be starting from making STEM education accessible at the school level itself, because that's where the problem starts. And if we start there, in 5 or 10 years, some of the issues at least may be addressed. So some of the interventions that have come up at Vision Empower, I'd like to briefly mention about them, what we are doing from past 3 years. First year, we uh, spent in researching if the problem still exists, because all the problems that I mentioned were there in my school days, and none of the problems had been resolved. All the problems still existed when we conducted research for 1 year, and later we had a few interventions which we piloted with one school, and now we are working with 10 schools in Karnataka. So firstly, our interventions, the first initiative that we have is on the content creation. As I mentioned, a blind student, when we started Vision Empire, a blind student did not have math or science books. Even if they had some content, full content was not there. So we make all the content accessible, including the visual parts. So there are various ways of making the visual content accessible. If there is a diagram, we can either present it as braille embossed diagrams, or wherever necessary, we also use 3D models. So content creation is really necessary for us, and lot of content that are there in textbooks cannot directly be used because they are not designed keeping in mind the needs of a visually impaired student. I'll give you an example. So in a textbook, if there is a sentence that starts with look around, there is a lot of greenery, or this is in the shape of a mountain. So if a blind child doesn't know what mountain is, what greenery is, how are you supposed to visualize what is going on? So we have to make the language itself accessible for a child who is visually impaired. And secondly, our main initiative is called Pragya, which is the teacher training program. This is because we are working with blind schools, and in these schools, majority of the teachers themselves are visually impaired. And this, because of this, they have not studied these subjects themselves, math and science. They have themselves not studied. So there is a gap in understanding concepts itself. So we have to bridge whatever the gaps are there. And we also have our own material, and we have to train the teachers on how to use these materials to train students. That's why we have our teacher training program. We have about 3 or 4 per year, and now from when the COVID pandemic has begun, it's still frequent. And other initiative is on computational thinking. I really don't have to talk about computational thinking for this crowd for sure. But I'll just tell you why we need computational thinking now, why we need to think about it now. Because math and science was ignored for so many years, and now we see so many problems for the blind community. But if computational thinking is addressed right now, because most of the schools in India are thinking of computational thinking only now. In fact, even globally, most schools are thinking of computational thinking only now. So we thought this is the right time to start this initiative, and this is fully with support from Microsoft Research, with Manohar and team. We are working together with them. So when I was a research fellow there, this whole initiative was started, and now also this is continuing, and they are involved with us right from the research process, and they also guide us and also fund us on this initiative. So this whole computational thinking initiative is based on the ludic design approach. So for those of you who might not know what is ludic design, I want to briefly mention it here. So ludic design is a concept that is designed by researchers from Microsoft Research, Joyjit Pal and Manohar Swaminathan. So in this, what we do is play is at the center of all the activities that we have, and learning happens as a side effect. So we mostly focus on play. Whatever initiatives we have with regard to computational thinking, everything is through play, and children learn the concepts through play. So we don't teach, but we play with the students and they learn the concepts. So we have designed about 36 games. Now, all these games are to address numerical skills, to teach children numerical skills, because numeracy is the foundation, as we know, for computational thinking. So we need to start right from addressing the problem of numerical skills itself. So we have designed about 36 games, and all of these are through various materials that we have. One of the main thing that we use for our games, main material that we use for our games is the braille cards. We have designed specific braille cards after trying out with children, and we design all our games based on this. And now, from when COVID pandemic had started, we had to come up with something very new, because blind students learn through touch and feel. So if you have to do everything online, you have to think of new ways of doing things. So we have designed about 14 online games right now. And apart from this, we are also focusing on digital literacy as part of computational thinking, because we realized that when COVID pandemic had started, all the schools, regular schools, were seamlessly shifting to online platforms. And this was not the case for blind schools, because most of the teachers did not know how to use technology. They have no idea how to join a Zoom call, and you cannot even point them to some video that is already available. That is because, again, there is nothing like Click and all of these that we talk about in screen readers, and in screen readers such as TalkBack, which we use on phones. So we had to design tutorials ourselves, and we have designed about 23 tutorials to teach basic navigation on phone, to teach some of the apps such as Google Meet and Google TTS, and also some of the apps that are specifically needed for a visually impaired teacher. So this mostly focused on teachers. And the other initiative that we have is on technologies. This is very important for us. So before I go into details about it, I'd like to tell you how important for me technology was. For most of the people who can see, maybe technology is a comfort, but for people who are visually impaired, it's really a necessity. Because I use a software called a software, and it is called a screen reader. It's a text to speech software which reads out everything that comes on the screen. So that's the reason why I was even able to join Zoom call today. And I was introduced to screen readers in grade 11, and this was the first time ever I could have a written communication with someone. So would you believe that I never wrote to anybody before that? Whatever I said was only oral. And even if I wrote something, it was only in a format that a blind person could understand, that was in Braille. So I was so excited when I learned screen reader, to write a mail for the first time or to send a WhatsApp message. And this is the power of a screen reader. And I was able to read a book on my own for the first time without dependence on anyone. And also, I could browse anything. So, any news, or before that, I had to ask somebody to read. If they're not free, then I cannot read. So, this was the power of screen readers. And there are other technologies as well. One of the other assistive technology that I would like to mention is called Be My Eyes. So this Be My Eyes is an app which is available on Android and on iOS. So what Be My Eyes does is simple. So it connects a blind user with a sighted volunteer, with a volunteer who can see. So a blind person can call on Be My Eyes, and whoever picks up first, whichever sighted person picks up first, the blind person is connected to them, and you can seek a blind person can seek any remote assistance. For example, if I want to solve a CAPTCHA, I just call Be My Eyes and someone or the other picks the call, and they tell me this is the way you need to point your phone to the computer, and I follow their instructions and they just tell the characters and my CAPTCHA solving is done. The same way, if I want to identify which medicine is it, then I call Be My Eyes. I just point the phone's camera to that medicine, and then they just tell me the name. Some of the people also use it for cooking, for traveling, and all of it. So every time we can be 100% sure that someone will be there to assist. And that has been a huge game changer for the blind community. And this is really the potential of assistive technologies. Many lives will be transformed if assistive technologies are designed keeping in mind the user needs. So we knew already the potential of assistive technologies, and we thought that why not use it for math and science learning, because definitely they really help. And in this I'm going to talk briefly about two technologies. The first one is Subodha, which is the learning management system. So we already have a lot of learning management systems, but as I was mentioning, it's not fully accessible either. The interface is not accessible. They have a lot of unlabeled buttons, lot of images which a blind person cannot navigate, or the content itself is not accessible. I was mentioning it in the beginning that if there is someone explaining a concept and says this divided by this is 20, you don't know what this and that is. So the content itself is not accessible. These two things we are taking care of. We are making the interface itself accessible, and all our content is specifically designed for children with visual impairments. So it is very much accessible and inclusive. And we are providing this learning management system in whatever language the child requires. So the children do not even have to miss out on regional language content. This is our one of our technology initiatives. And the second one is called the Hexis. Hexis is a Braille book reader. As I was mentioning, Braille is a script which visually impaired people use to read and write. And Braille books were really bulky and were not easily available because they were costly to print, and regional language content itself was very difficult. Because of this reason, a lot of blind students do not know basic spellings as well, because they always listen and listen, so they don't read and write. They listen and speak. That's why the language skills are very poor, and this again impacts career and everything. So we had to again see how to make this how to address this issue. So we had designed a Braille book reader which was called Hexis. Not that there are no refreshable Braille displays throughout the world, they are there, but they're either really costly or they're not designed for children in designed keeping children in mind. So we had to address all of these issues through our Braille book reader. How our device works is, suppose there are 100 students in grade 5 and we want to provide some content for all these children. So the teacher or the content creator can just upload the content onto our web-based platform, which is called Antara. And once you upload it on the platform, a visually impaired child just needs to press on the download button, and all the 100 students will instantly get access to whatever content they require immediately in Braille. So we feel that this is really going to be very useful for children. We have also tried out with few children and they are very much excited and happy about it. And so all of these initiatives that we have, we couldn't do all by ourselves. So we mostly collaborate with a lot of organizations who have expertise in this area, who have been working already in this area for a while. And we also collaborate with research organizations like Microsoft Research. We also collaborate with governments. We have collaboration with Government of Karnataka and Government of Tripura. We are in talks with the Tamil Nadu government and other governments as well. We are now working with 10 schools, but next year we will be scaling up to 30 schools in 5 states next year, as in from coming June. And this was mostly all about what I wanted to say. And finally, I'd like to mention that if any of you are interested in this area or would really love to collaborate or pitch in even your ideas, that would be really helpful. As I said, we want to scale up all our initiatives. Now there are so many technologies. Now there's artificial intelligence also that are there, and all of you are experts in your own areas, and you will surely know what will work in terms of technology or any other idea that you may have for scale up. So if anyone is interested in collaboration, we are really open to it. As I mentioned, our ultimate goal is to make all the solutions that we have or any other new solution that we think of available to each and every child, whoever requires it anywhere in the world. So yeah, this is all I had to share. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Vidya. It was a really eye-opening experience for us to listen to this talk, because some of the things that you describe, it's absolutely inspiring, to say the very least. So clearly we have a lot to learn from you, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to engage, IISc will be able to engage with you, and going forward as well. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box. In the meantime, so one question that I had was, so you mentioned about how policy was not really, um, was, or maybe is not really taking into account the needs of the visually impaired. Since the time that you started Vision Empower, or perhaps over the last 5-10 years in general, have you noticed any change, or has Vision Empower been able to interface with the government and bring about policy change?
So when I was studying, when I was in school about 10 years back, there were really no talks about this whole area itself. Like whatever policies were in place, they were final. For example, I was given a scribe who was much junior, who did not know even how to read symbols for me, because they assumed that a blind person will be able to copy if they give us scribes who are highly qualified. And this resulted in me not answering so many questions because I couldn't understand the symbols. So at that time, really there was not much in this area. But what I see is, from when we started Vision Empower, a lot of people are coming forward in this area. A lot of universities are getting together. Triple IT has a lot of programs also, and these discussions keep happening, and all our partners are NGO partners who are working with us are also working with some of the governments in making IITs accessible, in making their respective board accessible. So now I feel everyone is very much interested in this area, and there's a huge shift in past 3 or 4 years in this area.
Uh, I'm so sorry. I actually lost you. I think there was a problem with my internet. So you were mentioning that a lot of universities are getting involved, and you were talking about Triple IT Hyderabad. Is that right?
Triple IT Bangalore. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
so Vision Empire is also a part of Inter-University Alliance, where a lot of higher educational institutions get together and discuss on what can be done to make education accessible. So there are some initiatives going on. And also all our NGO partners, some of them also are working with the governments to make education, their respective boards accessible. In fact, even CBSE has modified so many of their rules, and even IIT and JEE, they're still thinking of making it accessible, and I think it has improved a lot in past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, great, great. I mean, there's probably a long way to go, but we'll eventually get there. Thanks, Vidya. There's a question from Meenakshi D'Souza. Um, Meenakshi asks if you could address the problem of teaching computational thinking in Indian languages.
So actually, right now, all our games that we already have, so we have started only with addressing numerical skills for very young children. So here, the advantage for us is everything is done through play. So whenever we have braille cards, so the child whoever knows to read braille can read numbers in braille, or they can count the number of dots. We also have that in place, so the children can count. Since it's only numbers, really the language is not mattering as much now. But for all the games, we have play plans and other things in place where any teacher or anyone interested in teaching students will be able to refer to these play plans, and those are given in local languages of the teacher's choice. So right now, all our children and their parents are comfortable with English, so we also are getting it in Kannada, and we will be making it available in respective languages when we take it to the states, when we take it to different states.
Great. Thanks, Vidya. Any other questions? Okay, so looks like there are no other questions. Thank you again, Vidya, for very, very nice talk and for all the work that you're doing. And as I said, I hope, we'll be able to engage with you again in the future and hear many more talks from you. Thank you so much.